Welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs. And today, of course, like everyone in the media outlets in Egypt, we're focusing over the 47th anniversary of the 6th of October War 1973. 47 years, yes, celebrating dignity, celebrating integrity, and celebrating victory, glory that distinguished us and retained our integrity, and explained to the whole world and made it clear that we are heroes, we are courageous, and we are strong, we have strength, and we are united also, because the 6th of October War, or the 1973 war, or the Ramadan War, because all these elements coincided together in that glorious war, was a significance of the unity between Arabs, not only Egyptians but also the Arabs. We're going to be focusing over that particular topic in detail in this edition of Windows on Current Affairs, and I'm very delighted to have with me Dr. Magda Bagnid. She's a professor of Mass Comm and of course an international expert in the world of media and investigative reporting and many other things. Good evening, Dr. Bagnid, and
good
welcome.
Evening too.
Long time no see.
I know. Thank you very much for inviting me.
First of all, let us talk about how Egyptians are celebrating for the 47th year this glorious victory. Of course, there are new generations. I mean, the current generations, the small ones, the younger ones, I mean, don't even have a clue about what happened. They just see it as just a glorious victory. And we keep saying stories, and they keep seeing documentaries and everything, but they have no idea at all about the glory, the gravity of the glory in that particular war, how they crossed over until the other end, and they just destroyed the Barlev Wall and all that. How do you see it for this 47th year?
First of all, we have to say something like Mabruk. For 47 years, I could not believe it's already 47 years. That's a whole generation, two generations almost. I would excuse the new generation because they did not live the days where you have witnessed, you know, the glory of Egypt. The glory and the happiness comes from the fact that we did have a war before, which is the 67 war, in which Egypt was defeated. And after that, Egypt started to prepare itself well. You know, I'm talking about the army, I'm talking about everything, to be facing the enemy at that time. And people did not really believe that we could do something after the Naksa, as we say, you know, it's a drawback, and it was, everybody did not feel well being an Egyptian because we were not, you know, victorious at this war. So when the time came, it was a total surprise. What is good about it? It was during the month of Ramadan, so it has a special piety. People were fasting, people were praying, people were calling God, and at the same time, it took the world by surprise. This was the something which is new. They said Egyptian could not fight because of the Barlev Wall, and because we were not ready, we were not serious people. You know, the image and the stereotypes of depicting Arabs in the eyes of the world. It was a very negative image. When you study and when you go through the studies being written at that time, everything was negative. And Egypt, of course, was at the top because of the war itself. So when it came, it was about 2 o'clock, and here you hear on the radio that this is the first announcement that the Egyptian army is moving, and the story started. You know, it was like a film. And they started to say by Allahu Akbar, so you started to feel that there is a war at that time. The generation at that time could not believe that we are in actual war, because Sadat at that time did not give the image that we are fighting. And even people started to play. I mean, I'm just giving the story as it was said and told by the media, or Egyptian media. People thought that they are playing on the other side of the canal, so Egyptians are not serious about it. It was a Sabbath, according to their language, which is a Saturday. Saturday, Jews do not fight. You know, it has like our Friday, our Jum'ah, you know, in Islamic world. So it was far away from them to think that we are going in actual war. So when it happened and we won, it was something surprising. And here comes, you know, the boost for the morale of the Egyptian people. The Arab world, yes, but in particular the Egyptians, because they are in the canal area, and it was glorious to see, to hear and see what the world media wrote about Egypt at that time. And they started to pick up all of the positive images about the Egyptians, Arabs, you can say Arab Egyptians or Egyptians, and they say, they started to dig from the Quran, the Holy Quran, that the best fighters are Egyptian ones.
There was a significant change in the attitude of American media, the US media outlets, and we all remember as media people who are specialists with these particular topics, the interviews that were conducted with President al-Sadat,
Yes.
and the media personality Peter Jennings of ABC, whom we learned from, could learn, I mean, the late Peter Jennings, and also Barbara Walters, also, who interviewed him. This was a turning point in the media and in the history of media, because he spoke very good English, and he also was very meaningful, and he sent messages during those conducted interviews, and also the questions that were asked by Peter Jennings were to be taught in the schools of media.
Yeah, investigative reporting. You know, when I visited the office of ABC News, when I went later to write a book about the networks, you know, the American media, you know, as a reporter, since you talked about late Peter Jennings, I have to say some of the things I observed because I worked with him. Among the things that you notice is that he does not let the work that he would do to somebody else, the research, the information, he would do it on his own computer. When he goes and talks to the, you know, on the air to the American people, for instance, this is a national television. He do it himself, not somebody gets you, you know, the information and then you sit. No, he does
producers.
an editing. He was doing everything. And let me give you an idea also, you know, the way he started. He does not have a very high education, by the way.
Really?
No. Let me tell you some of the information.
We're very curious to know.
He started like an office boy, believe it or not. And he, you know, in America, you can, you know, you can start your ladder, you can go up. Okay, it's not like here. You must have the shahada. You must have the certificate.
For ABC.
Exactly. But he was brilliant. He was brilliant. And they used to call him the Golden Boy. Some of the stories, I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I heard about the Golden Boy. It was in the media.
Golden Boy because
and the,
he was good
press.
looking, but he was very curious to work well. So that's why he ran just, you know, the ladder. He took it very quickly. And then he became #1. And then he became one of the top in the media in the United States. At that time, we're not talking about CNN. CNN was not there. The main channels that were presenting the news for the people were the networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. They were the main ones. Until the 80 came, then we had the CNN. Before that, it was these people working on it. And it has, you know, the national news and the international news. What is being presented in America, they have to send, it would be the international part. So anyways, where did we stop?
Right, we were talking about Peter Jennings and how he drove his way all to the top to be
hard worker.
the #1 news anchor and reporter for ABC in Manhattan, New York, which is unbelievable, which is magical for any media person.
Let me tell you a story, but that I observed later when I worked with the networks later. You know, we're talking about the 73 war. You know, his trip, the Sadat's trip to Jerusalem was in 77. That's a long, several years. But what happened is that at that time, he was very important because people looked to him as, you know, like a star. They were like movie stars. When they present the news, whatever they say, people were trusting him. At the same time, there were also Walter Cronkite with CBS, Tom Brokaw with NBC. These were very well-known names. They started to come to Egypt. At that time, I did not finish even my PhD. I was observing them. many people started to study and do it like to document this work like a PhD, you know, to study the coverage of the media to the October War. So they started to dig and get the information about it, and the world used to look with a very positive eye to the Egyptians. From here, Sadat, the Egyptian president, started to think about a bigger step. He wanted to have stability, he wanted to have peace in the Middle East. So from this, he started to think about visiting the land of the enemy, Jerusalem. So that's why he thought about going to Jerusalem. And he was a successful and a winner. You know, when you go as a winner, you're not a defeated person here. So you can talk and comply, you know, you can tell them on this terms.
But let's go back to the 1973 war and how it has changed even Egypt's image. And not only it has served for the interests of the Egyptian side, but the whole Arab world, the whole Arab region, and the Middle East.
Yes.
Look at how the media outlets have started regarding the
Arabs
Middle East.
stood together.
They understood how the strength
Powerful.
of the Arab leaders together.
Yes.
Which is a very important element and a great message throughout the years and history to the Middle East and all the Arab countries until this very moment. Nothing could be achieved without the strength and unity and solidification of all the Arab countries.
Because you talk with the language of power. When you're a powerful person, people would respect you, and this is very important. So this is where Sadat comes from. You know, he spoke, you know, the language of power because he was a winner, and winner to somebody that they thought unbeatable. You know, when they talked about Barleif and they said nobody can conquer this place, and with just little bit of water here and there, they were able to stop this legend that they started. So Sadat, yani, I would say, may peace be upon his soul. He was very courageous, and he did something big for Egypt that history will never forget. Whatever happens, he's one of the greatest people. I met many of the, you know, American deans in the American universities. I said, you're a lucky guy because we would like to have somebody like Sadat. And even my professor, when I was studying, he said, we would like to have Sadat in America. That would change things. You know, it's not only him, it's him and the image of Egypt with him at the same time.
He was good for that particular time. I mean, he was fit for that time, and he came
and he knew and understood.
Right.
You know.
Right. He had the qualifications to effect changes at that particular time.
The charisma that he did, you know. And even when he spoke, you know, to the Western media, he knew the mentality of the Western media, and he spoke to them with the same language. And they respected that. They respected that. They respect power. If you're powerless, nobody will listen to you. So this is basically the language of the West and the rest of the world after that. So I would say that, yes, the Western media started to change. You can see that if you go to the review of literature, how the change came about. They make comparisons. And Egypt stands up, you know, talking about it. And many studies were done about this, and it is documented. And you have the October War, I think so, in Nasr City, people would visit and see.
The panorama.
The panorama, exactly. It's very important. Now, talking about the new generation, they did not know. We, at that time, what we knew about the October victory was the Egyptian songs, very popular. Remember the songs of Warda, the songs of Abdul Halim, Sabah al-Khair Yasina, you know, to glorifying Sina. Beautiful.
It was the cream of music and lyrics and composition.
Egyptians united, you know.
It was like the time of the Beatles in England.
Exactly.
We had our time also.
Euphoria.
It was the best artists and best music and best intellectuality.
And Egyptians loved each other at that time. You know, just before this war, people were not that much united, you know. But with it, Egyptians came together, which is solidarity. This is very important. And Sadat was leading them in the right track. You know, this was the good part about it. And when you hear the songs of Warda and so on, you just say, oh, that was a beautiful, these were beautiful days. You know, the glory and the success and the image of Egypt with a powerful image, he was able to move, Sadat. He was able to move here and there and started to build Egypt again, after that. Yeah.
Right, but let's go again back to how the media outlets handled this particular incident of the October War, which was unprecedented, by the way, in the Middle East and to the whole world.
Shock.
Because
he took them on shock.
to the whole world and to the United States, Israel was the undefeated front.
That's it.
It could never be defeated.
The land of the enemy.
Right.
This was the saying, they say.
And
Egypt went to the land of the enemy, talking about defeating them.
exactly, but also
Respect,
they
you gained respect,
it was right. And they used to look up at the Israeli army as the undefeated army.
Yes.
They never had an idea about the strength and will and power, inner strength of the Egyptian army personnel and officers and the abilities and capabilities of our army.
Yes.
And the planning also of our generals. They never they underestimated us a lot.
Underestimation, exactly.
But let's go back again to how media outlets handled this particular thing. Before the war was something, and after the war it was something else. From your own assessment, you are a media expert, and you train students and you teach media with all its forms, and especially specific heavyweight media, like the investigative reporting, like all types of media and all that. How do you assess the media before the war?
Failure. It was total failure. They give you examples from what
Was
happened.
it because of the attrition war, and that's why it was a little bit pessimistic and
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something.
Spreading pessimism.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. Remember, at that time, the morale of the people was not high. Even if you watch the movies, and the media itself was even the language was low, deteriorating, going down. And with the success, you started to find as if somebody was asleep and then woke up. And you find better language, better songs, better musicians. Everything was just going on the right track. Things, even if you watch some of the series, the language of the series itself and so on, you feel that these people are defeated. It's the spirit itself. Suffering, and all of us, the Egyptian people, all of the Egyptian people were suffering because they feel that the country is defeated.
Right.
Yeah, but it changed.
We're going to move on to a short break, and we'll come back to you, so stay with us.